So welcome to the 10th AMER conference. I'm having a little bit of difficulty and interruption hearing you,
Yeah.
but anyway, I guess there are many mics on. Anyway, so I would just like to welcome everyone, and then according to the schedule, we're going to start our conference with Master Muhammad Fikri Uthman regarding education right for children with special disabilities. So for you and all the other beloved presenter, I just wanted to remind you that you have 10 minutes time for your oral presentation, 5 minutes for Q&A with the audience, and 4 minutes for Q&A with me. So I'm here whenever you feel you're ready, you just let me know.
Yeah, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure, I can hear you very well. So please introduce yourself and your co-authors, please, and share your slides with us.
All right. Okay.
So your 10 minutes just started from now. So I will
Hi.
off my mic.
All right. Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah, and a very good afternoon. My name is Muhammad Fikri Osman, and I will be presenting educational right for children with disabilities, special needs, a comparison between Malaysia and Thailand. So my co-authors are Dr. Nurizan Rahmat, Dr. Nur Azkina Abdul Aziz, and Professor Sasipin Subumpan from Chiang Mai Rajabat University. Before I start with my presentation, I would like to define what is person with disabilities and also children with special needs. Person with disabilities or PWDs are those with long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment, which in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full participation, according to Section 2 of Person with Disabilities Act. And under Malaysian Education Blueprint, children with special needs are children with visual impairment, hearing impairment, speech difficulties, physical disabilities, and learning disabilities, such as autism, Down syndrome, ADHD, and dyslexia. As we all know, education is important to everyone, especially disabled person, because of education helps them from being neglected by society and also allows them to read, write, make their own decision, and even help them to seek a job. So because of the importance of education, so the educational right has been recognized internationally and also in Malaysia. For example, we have Convention on the Rights of the Child, Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and in Malaysia, we have National Policy and Action Plan of Persons with Disabilities and also Zero Reject Policy. However, even though it has been recognized internationally and also it has been recognized in Malaysia, but whether the issue is whether the educational right of children with special needs in Malaysia protected. So because of that, I will compare the educational right of children with special needs in Malaysia and also with Thailand. So for methodology, we use doctrinal and also comparative legal research, where under doctrinal, we analyze journal articles, textbooks, etudes, and case laws that are related to special education in Thailand and also in Malaysia. For comparative legal research, we analyze the legislative text, jurisprudence, and legal doctrine from both countries, Malaysia and also Thailand. So in Malaysia, we have education system where we have 3 schooling options. Firstly, we have special education schools, where it is school for one type of disability. For example, we have school for hearing problems and so on. Then we have special education integration program, where students with disabilities or with special needs are to be put in the special class in the mainstream schools. And lastly, we have inclusive education program, where students with special needs are put together with other normal students. Then for the laws that are related to special education for children with disabilities, we have a few. For example, we have Federal Constitution under Article 8. It provides equality before the law, and also under Article 12, where we have the right to education, no discrimination on the ground of religion, race, and also place of birth in the administration of education. Then we have Person with Disabilities Act 2008. Under Section 28, it provides children with special needs must be given education on an equal basis as other normal children, and they should not be rejected and discriminated because of their disabilities. Next, we have Education Act 1996 under Section 40, where the minister have the power to provide special schools or for children with special needs. And under Section 41, the minister have the power to prescribe duration and also the curriculum for special schools and also special education. Then we also have Special Education Regulation 2013, in which these regulations contain of the requirement to attend probationary period. Then it has code of practice and the implementation, requirement to attend curricular activities, and also the duration of the special education. That's all the laws which are related to special education for children with disabilities in Malaysia. Whereas in Thailand, the education system has been divided into special schools and also regular schools. The special schools in Thailand is quite similar like ours in Malaysia. They're for special schools for visual impairments, special school for hearing impairments. And for regular schools, they have three settings. Firstly, they have part-time co-learning integration. Then they have mainstream arrangement in the form of a full-time joint study and also inclusive education. They also have numerous or several laws which are related to special education. Firstly, under National Education Act, which is under Section 10, where it provides children with special needs shall have the rights and opportunities to receive basic education. And under Compulsory Education Act 2002, under Section 12, children with special needs should be provided with compulsory education through special education. Then they have Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities Act 2007, where under Section 20, it provides persons with disabilities, PWDs, have the right to access and utilize public facilities for the purpose of education. And lastly, under Education Provisions for Persons with Disabilities 2008, where there are a few sections which provide educational right and also special education under this act, where under Section 5, persons with disabilities have the right to receive education for free upon birth or at discovery of disabilities. Under Section 6, it provides special remuneration to special education instructors to enhance the knowledge of the special education instructors. Then under Section 7, the instructors and also the institutions will be given subsidies and also special assistance from the government. Section 8, institution of special education are to establish individual education plan. And under Section 9, the instructors of special education are to be provided with necessary information, understanding, skills by the government subsidies. So based on the comparison between current law in Malaysia and Thailand, what we found that first in Malaysia, Article 8 and Article 12 under the Federal Constitution, Article 8 does not specifically mention on discrimination against persons with disabilities, even though it gives right equality before the law, but it does not specifically mention discrimination against persons with disabilities. Besides, under Article 12, it does not prohibit any form of discrimination in terms of enrollment into special education school. For example, if the children with special needs, they fail to meet the criteria set up by the ministry, they can be denied to enter into special education program. So Article 12 does not prohibit.
Monte, you have 1 minute left.
Right. Then we have Education Act 19. This act is only too general, where it gives the power of the minister to give to provide special education. Then Person with Disabilities Act 2008, which it is called as Toothless Tiger because of its lack of enforcement and punishment provision. Then under Section 28, the term on equal basis is questionable because of they can be denied to enter into school if they fit to meet the criteria. And under special education regulation, it violates their education right because of it requires the probationary period of students before they can enter into special education schools. And in Thailand, the most significant one is under Education Provisions for Persons with Disabilities 2008, where it gives a lot of educational right. For example, they have right to access education, they have right to select educational service, and also right to obtain standardized education. Then additional remuneration to be given to special education instructors, subsidies, and special assistance by the government. So it shows that the Thailand government are very serious to provide and also to protect the educational of children with special needs in their country compared to our compared to Malaysia. So for conclusion and recommendation, the educational right for children with special needs in Malaysia is still not protected effectively, even though there are some related laws, because of it doesn't have the specific law, and the current law are too general. So because of that, our recommendation is that we need a specific law that regulates special education for children with disabilities in order for us to protect their educational right effectively. Thank you.
Doctor, you are muted.
All right, thanks for reminding me. So thanks for your presentation. So I just want to start with a 5-minute Q&A with the audience, if there's any question. So we will be hearing from you. Any question? Because I have lots to discuss with you. I just wanted to check whether from the audience is there anyone. All right, in this case. So first of all, I liked your topic because this is a very important topic to discuss, and it helps a lot to the country. I mean, it has contribution to the country, but there are very highlighted points for me that I wanted to discuss with you. When we do some research, academic research, which I'm 100% sure that you are enough professional in that, you know that we do have to narrow down our scope. As you mentioned, when we talk about disabilities, we do have mental disabilities, we do have physical disabilities, and the physical disabilities goes to the one that they call it movement disabilities. We do have physical disabilities like blind people that they can move still or are deaf. So I would rather, when you wanted to do a research, that was much better if you would rather narrow down, saying that I'm going to do this research only for disabled people that they have physical disabilities with movement problem, something like that. So that's my suggestion to you, that in future you do narrow down, because it's a very wide topic when you talk about disabilities. And in a very, let me say that in one article you cannot cover all. Secondly, I have the experience living in Malaysia for 10 years. I'm quite familiar, but can you imagine that I'm your panel and I haven't been in Malaysia before? I needed to have some vision about what's going on in Malaysia now. So I would rather to have some pictures of educational places or situation of students that with disabilities instead of having some pictures from internet regarding disabled people in your presentation, I would rather to see that you have visited these spaces, I mean educational centers in Malaysia and in Thailand, both. So this is the second point that I wanted to share with you. And something which is very important for me, according to your conclusion, you did mention that Thailand has been developed in this situation because of this government support, right? So, but when we do comparison, we try to compare according to some similarities, or if you feel that Malaysia is a developing country, it's better to find the best example to compare. It's going to help your country better. So in this case, I want to hear from you. Why did you pick Thailand? Why didn't you go for, let's say, even in Asia, why didn't you go for Japan? Because you know Japan is very pioneer in disability, I mean, cares. This is one question. The second one was I wanted you to explain to me a little bit about current situation. How many schools have you visited?
Okay, I will.
Tell me about your own observation.
All right. So because of this pandemic, so we are not allowed to enter into the schools. So this research is very limited because we are not allowed to go to the school to observe and to do research. We only can have online interviews with the teachers and also from the parents. That's for the second question. And we choose
How about the pictures? Could you get any pictures from their schools in Malaysia?
Yeah, we have pictures, but the pictures are not recent. It is from.
Well, you could ask. What I'm saying is that, my dear, this is the chance that we share because we want to improve our research, right? So
yeah.
No offense when I'm giving you my opinion. When I'm saying that, so we needed some pictures, so you could call them if they wouldn't allow you in. So you could call them and ask for some photographs of their center, because everyone is willing to help to improve the situation. So my suggestion to you is that try to that was just a suggestion for your next research.
All right.
I know sometimes we do come up with reasons as a limitation, but being honest with you, it's not a limitation, the COVID-19, so then the picture is not there. And you just mentioned that you have done some interviews. So it's a very good point, but in your presentation, we haven't had any evidence of your interviews. How many people have you interviewed? So what were the questions? What were the questions in the interview? Something like that. So yeah, that's it. You just go ahead and continue.
All right.
Doctor, I think Prof. Sasipin from Thailand is here. Perhaps he wants to give some comments on the position in Thailand. And one of the reasons that we have chosen Thailand is because the country is very near to us, and in terms of educational rights, they are more advanced compared to us. Prof. Sasipin, are you here with us?
Good afternoon, everyone. So,
good afternoon.
Yes. So the situation in Thailand, thank you for choosing the topic. I think Mr. Muhammad would like to compare only the laws. So it doesn't mean that he would like to compare the educational system. I mean for the student with special needs. So maybe we focus only the law and regulation and compare only this, right? You don't think you don't want to
maybe there is a little bit of like, I mean, we need to revise the title, the topic, or the interviews and research methodology. That's very good, but I couldn't see that inside your presentation. So I missed to see that. So there were an interview because of the COVID-19. So your presentation, when I try to ask you questions, I could get a better feedback from you. But while you were presenting, maybe because of time management, you missed to explain about the points, like saying that we have done the interviews according to COVID, we couldn't be there, but we have provided some pictures to explain the background. So these are my points, which I guess you can, yeah, you can consider for your for your next researches.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for the comments.
You're welcome. Welcome. Thank you. So, and then you mentioned that you have chosen Thailand because it's a close country to Malaysia and they are more developed by respect to Thailand. Still, you do have Singapore around too, and they are developed too. So maybe you could make it like, because when you want to learn from other countries, so you could come up with some examples taken from Singapore too. It's going to help both countries. So maybe in future you can consider a little bit more advanced countries around. But that was a good job that you have done. So I have explained to you my concerns, and I hope that it did help you too.
Thank you.
So would you like to add anything?
I think in terms of educational rights for children with special needs, in Muhammad Fikri's thesis, he's now doing a PhD. I think we have compared with some countries, including Singapore, Thailand, and many other countries. But in terms of educational rights, we think that Thailand is more advanced compared to other countries. That's why in this paper, it is very, very narrow. That's why we choose only one country, that is Thailand. But in his thesis, I think the coverage is wider compared to the paper.
Wider, that's good. So what I'm telling you is that whatever I judge is based on the presentation and a slide. So this is something that maybe during your oral presentation, you can point on it, saying that, so we have done some research regarding other countries, we have another case studies. So it all depends on how you want to present. You have done a good job, but when you wanted to present it, you don't present it as much as you have put all your effort for the writing of the thesis. So maybe a little bit of showing your passion and experience about the whole thesis. The PhD thesis was 3-4 years. So I guess you have this passion for your title. So defend and try to be more active while you're presenting, right?
All right. Thank you very much for the comments.
Yeah. So good luck for your future studies. I'll have no more comments.
Right.
Thank you. So shall we proceed with our next presentation, please? Miss Nur Huzaifa Zainal, sorry.
Yes, present.
So welcome, my dear. As you have heard from me, you have 10 minutes and we are all here.
Yeah,
whenever you are ready. So just let me know.
Thank you, Dr. Sharona. Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Nur Huzaifa Zainal. This is a research very close to me because this research was done in Penang, where I live. My co-authors are Dr. Safarina, Dr. Fatin Afika from Faculty of Built Environment, Universiti Teknologi Malaysia, and also from the Center of Real Estate Study, Universiti Teknologi Malaysia. And we have our international co-author, which is my very good friend, Professor Silika Amin from Lahore College of Women University Lahore in Pakistan. Okay, a little bit of background on the study. The study is aimed to understand how the leasing concept is implemented in Malaysia. The area of study is in Penang. Yes, the study is about Malaysia, but why we focus in Penang is because as of today, there's only 2 states in Malaysia that implemented this concept, which is in Penang and in Johor, where Penang has the longest time of period of implementing this concept. So, the objectives are 2, which is number 1, we try to understand the development process and what are the laws that guided these processes to develop strata lease scheme. And secondly, it to determine whether this law support this strata leasing concept. Okay, what is actually strata leasing? Before we begin, it's actually similar to land leasing, where a landowner leases out his land to a lessee for a period of time, but instead of applying to land title, we apply it to strata buildings and stratified units. Okay, a little bit of introduction. The concept of strata leasing was first introduced in Penang in the 1980s. Why in 1980s? Is because Strata Title Act was first introduced in 1985. So, however, the strata lease buildings in Penang was not even recognized as strata lease scheme because there is no differences between a typical strata schemes and a strata lease scheme, especially in the appearance. All building looks the same. Okay, the next thing is that the only difference is that all strata lease scheme has a registered lease onto its strata title. That is the intention of creating a strata lease scheme. The word strata lease scheme seems to be very foreign to most of us because it was never formally introduced in Malaysia. But however, most of us are familiarized with the word private lease scheme, which is the concept that was trying to be implemented in the current development in Medini, Johor. So, due to this reason, it's not a surprise there is a mix-up between the understanding of a strata lease scheme and a private lease scheme. As Nasar explained that leasing is not an ownership. It's true actually. And Abu Bakar, Mohsen and Zamri explained in these 3 studies about the ideology of private lease scheme in Medini. Private lease scheme is actually a concept of strata leasing, putting a building of strata into a lease agreement where these units are being sold through a lease agreement between owners and buyer. However, the private lease scheme ideology was never really implemented in Johor because what we have in Johor right now is the similar development concept that we have in Penang. This study has actually focused a lot on reviewing Abu Bakar's and other study where Abu Bakar actually presented this paper last year in Kota Baru through an Environment-Behaviour Conference using the same platform. But what interesting is that we found that there is a gap. Abu Bakar and others actually commented that the current National Land Code does not support the concept of private lease scheme. But what Abu Bakar did not do is that they did not review other law than National Land Code to see whether some other law does support the strata leasing concept or not. Because of this gap, this is the reason why we do this research. Zamri also highlighted that unit buyers under the ideology of private lease scheme is unable to form management corporation due to the limitation of Strata Management Act. A little bit of the method. So based on the strata schemes or the strata lease building that we have in Penang, we took 24 schemes and we actually conducted an interview with the landowners, land registrar, and land administrator. The reason why we conducted an interview is we designed the question to understand what are the process flow, what are the limitations, and what are the law that actually support the development and the regulation of this building. On top of that, from this interview, these data are supported with a secondary data, which is documentation review on the planning permission, building plan, subdivision files, minute of meeting, other government relevant documents, and also very importantly is strata titles and strata books. The reason why we do that is to verify these processes and to get the specific law and act that actually used to regulate these buildings. Okay, this is the biggest scheme in Pulau Pinang, which is in Penang. We call it Ku Kongsi scheme, where we have the land proprietor is Trustee Leong San Tong Ku and Ku Kongsi registered. These are the owners. The interesting is that it's actually about 3,506 acres of strata development which is built under these schemes. As you can see, we have about 10,000 strata titles, which consists of commercial and also residential schemes. And other scheme that was studied was also Sri Pangkor and Marina Bay Condominium, and also Midland Court, which the landowners are Penang Island City Councils. Okay, the interesting about all these schemes are they are considered the old scheme which were developed in the 80s and 90s. But recently we have a new scheme, strata list scheme, which are these 3 famous apartments under the Wakaf lands by Penang Islamic Region as the proprietor of the land. They are Han Muhammad Apartments, Wakaf Muhammad Hashim Apartments, and also Wakaf An-Nur Apartments. Okay, through this study, this is what are the findings. One, we found out that there is a similarity in the process development for both strata list scheme and the normal typical list scheme. However, there is a significant difference between these 2 schemes. The most important significance is that in a strata list scheme, a lease is registered onto all strata titles of the buildings. And what we found is that there is no specific legislation to cater a strata list scheme. Means there is no one law to regulate, to govern a strata list concept. So what we found out is that for the last 20 years, the stakeholder has been referring to different other laws in Malaysia to help them to regulate and administrate these buildings. Okay, these are the findings. Instead of based on Abu Bakar, they depend on one law, which is National Land Code. But in our findings, we have 9 laws. Besides the National Land Code, we have Strata Management Act, we have Strata Title Act, we have Housing Development and Licensing Act, we have Town and Country Planning Act, we have Probate and Administration Act, Small Estate Distribution Act, and also Federal Constitution, and also the Trustees Act. With all these acts and law, we are able to find out that the current strata list in Penang is actually using all this law effectively without having to have a new law. And the stakeholders are actually using this law as a practical approach to govern the building for the last 20 years. And at the same time, the ideology that was explained in Abu Bakar studies, Zamri studies, and Mohsin studies previously about private lease scheme that should be implemented in Johor was not agreed at national level, because private lease scheme ideology requires a lot of law amendment in the current law that we have now, and we actually will affect other schemes that already established long ago under the current law that we have now. So what we found out that is that there is a lack of understanding on the concept of strata leasing itself. So when there is no true understanding about concept of strata leasing or how a strata lease should be, there will be a mistake during the development of a strata lease scheme. This is what the problem that they are facing in Johor, where they do not understand what are the limitations, what are the law required, what are the key processes that are required to specialize into building a strata lease scheme. As conclusion, what we found out in this study is that the current law that was explained before is enough and is practical to govern the strata lease development. And the study also revealed that based on the experience of the landowners, land administrator, and land registrar, we know that the current law is practical enough to be used to govern and to administrate the strata lease scheme in Penang. And this same concept could be used to develop for a future development in this concept. But one thing is important, that you need to understand the concept itself. You need to understand what is the limitation of this concept. So what we found out that in future there will not be a specific law for this, but by understanding the true character of strata lease scheme, you will able to develop a better development of strata lease scheme in future. Okay, this is what we found out from the law. So you can see a strata lease scheme has one ownership. These are the character that we need to understand. All strata lease scheme must have a registered lease. If there is, the lessor is the owner and the lessee is the unit buyer. If there is more than 2 lessee, it has to be registered as trustees. This is all explained under Strata Title Act, National Land Code, and also Trustee Act. And also there should not be a sublease. And a accessory parcel and also main parcel cannot be dealt separately, where all lease has to be registered onto all parcel. And the lease agreement has to be a 99-year terms because it's more bankable, it's easy to get loan from the bank. A lease is an indivisible registration where it cannot be revoked and is protected by law. And it does not have an undivided share. It is a single ownership where all the building units belong to one person. Therefore, this owner is the person who's going to manage the building and is acknowledged as the management corporation. But the good thing is that all unit buyers, although they are the lessee, they have the same right under strata tribunal as good as a proprietor. For future recommendation, because we do not have a specific law for strata lease scheme, there should be a guideline or a framework as a reference for future development to eliminate any mistake or any misunderstanding about strata lease scheme. For that, I end my presentation with thank you, and I open question to the floor. Thank you very much.
So thank you, my dear. So I know that you said that you're pregnant, and I know that it's not easy to work during pregnancy. Well done. So any Q&A from the audiences, please?
Trying to catch my breath.
All right. It's going to be easy. I just want to check with you a few points. Maybe these are some misunderstanding for me. I just need your explanation. My dear, your topic is practicalities of strata lease scheme in Malaysia. But your focus is mainly in Penang, right? And then you named a few times about JB, Johor Bahru, right? So shall we just, sorry, shall we just think about the topic that it could be practicalities of the strata lease scheme in Penang, or are you going to divide it up to whole Malaysia? If it's about the whole Malaysia, so that means you have only your case studies in Penang, but according to your presentation, maybe because you are from there and you feel more confident to talk about Penang, but it seems that the study is all about Penang. So what I'm saying is that either you have to talk about the whole Malaysia, or if it's specific about Penang, we have to think about the topic. So this is the first point.
May I just add to that, Doctor? Just now at the first beginning of the presentation, I explained that although it's about Malaysia, but there's only 2 states that are actually implementing this concept, which is one in Penang, one in Johor. So during my
Is that the topic? Either we have to think about the topic, because it's very important how to pick the keywords. If I were in your shoes, I would most probably change my topic, saying that the schemes in Penang and Johor Bahru.
Yeah.
Do you get my point?
I
We have
understand.
to narrow down things. So
Yeah.
that was just a suggestion you can discuss with your co-authors, maybe.
Yes, probably.
So,
Yes.
and one more thing regarding the problem identification. As for my understanding from your presentation, I found out that people are not aware properly and in detail from the rules and laws regarding this kind of leasing, right?
Yes, correct.
This is the problem.
Yes.
So, but can we have, I heard it from you, and then I knew that you got the powerful literature to support yourself. But my advice to you is that when you want to point to a problem, come up with a specific publications, citation. That was much better to say that according to
I see.
blah blah blah. So there are the problem between contractors or the owners of the lands or the government, that they have the issue because they had lack of information or awareness regarding these leasing rules. What I'm saying is that you have to have supportive citation to prove there is a problem regarding this awareness, because it might be your own personal perception that people have not enough information regarding this leasing concept, right? So, but when you had the first time that it came to your mind that you have to do this research, so when was that you found out there is a problem in Malaysia, that people have lack of information regarding this kind of leasing? So we shall have the problem identification, some support for that.
So actually this is just an independent study out of from my full thesis study, which I'm ongoing completing it. But in the study, in my thesis, actually we refer to a lot of references, which is newspaper review from the house buyers representative. They were complaining about the misunderstanding of the concept of strata leasing, especially in Johor. So the problem was there. So for this purpose of this study, I focus on Penang, just to show that Penang has already implemented this for the last 20 years. And what happened in Johor is actually recent 5 years, which it was found out that they did not cross reference to what we have in Penang.
That's the same thing that I said to the previous presenter. I know that you have done a good job, and I know that you spend a lot of time to do your research, but give me some rights, because I haven't read your whole thesis.
I see.
So what happens to me is that I have 10 minutes to listen to you and see your slides, and I have to come up with some conclusion. So this is something that I knew, I was 100% sure that you have done that, but it's missing in your presentation. Maybe in future, so you might know that they will ask about supportive document regarding the problem identification. You just like put some sentences to support your presentation.
I understand what you're trying to go. Yes, I understand. Yeah, it's not, it's like my mind and your mind are different. It's just that I know the whole picture and you're based on this presentation only. Yes, it's I should actually cite where I got the idea of lack of understanding, not knowing. All this is supposed to be reflected on my presentation. Understand? Thank you very much, Doctor. Yes, I'm aware that.
Welcome. And then the last point that I wanted to share with you is that, so as for my understanding regarding your presentation, you said that from the government, the rules and the laws regarding this lease are very proper and very practicable. But the thing is that the problem is that people have not enough information and awareness regarding how it's going to be practicable. So knowing Malaysia, I have my heart there. So I've been UITM students before. Knowing Malaysia, the ministries, I mean, education and all this other ministries, health, they are very supportive and they are very open to researchers. So my suggestion to you is that when you have done this research, in the recommendation, you could mention that. So we need some of your recommendation is that we need public awareness.
I see.
So you have to find out how the ministry can make it like development ministry, if I don't mistaken, or country national ministries. So I'm not that familiar with the ministries that you have there. So they should raise the public awareness in this society. So maybe you can put it as your contribution, or you can make it as recommendation, how they can, we know that they have lack of awareness. So how we have to aware them. So you said that we have to come up with the guidelines and frameworks. So and then so we have to, we cannot keep it for our libraries. We both know that anyone who is in this industry, they don't go to libraries and they don't research for our theses or researchers to proceed. So we have to make it very practicable. So we have to find out how to increase the public awareness regarding this matter.
Yes, that's quite a good idea, because having everything documented but unable to deliver to the public is something that does not actually achieve the target of getting people to know the true concept of this study.
Yeah, but the first building you said that was 1980. I mean, the first scheme of this leasing, so it's gonna be like almost 42 years. So that's gonna make it long way. So we should do something faster.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So I enjoyed your presentation and all your gesture. I could see that you have this passion for your topic. Thanks, I enjoyed it. So anyone else got any
for your comment? It's very fruitful. I will put it inside
my thesis, especially about the awareness. Yeah, I think awareness is very important, because sometimes we do not want our thesis to be just kept in the library for many years, but without people understanding what is actually going on. Yeah, that should be the way. Thank you so much, Doctor.
So I'm happy. I'm happy that I could help you. So thank you. So any question from the audience? However, I guess I took all the 10 minutes of Q&A. So shall we proceed with our next presenter, please?
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome. ABRA team, can I have our next presentation, please? Miss Nurul Salshabila.
Yes, it's me.
Welcome, my dear.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. My name is Nurul Shabila Izanda. I'm the main authors, and my co-authors is Dr. Safarina Samsudin, Dr. Aminah Mose, and Dr. Zainab Toyin Jakun. He's the international co-authors. My presentation is about ownership issues of all stratified scheme, the failure factors of strata title application. Okay, land scarcity has contributed to the stratified development in urban areas. So that National Land Code 1965 introduced strata titles, which the Strata Titles Act later administered in 1985, or we call it as STA 1985. The non-issuance and transference of strata title to passive owner or purchaser of subdivided building for the old stratified scheme. Therefore, the STA 1965 introduced special building to represent the old stratified scheme that occupied before June 1996 or from June 1996 until 11 April 2007. The said old stratified schemes are regarded as any building that was built 10 years before the implementation of amendments of Strata Title Act 2007 on 12 April 2007. Okay, why the non-issuance and transference of strata title to passive owner, or we say it as the purchaser of the property, because it's due to the absence of strata title because of the failure of strata title application to the Land and Mines Office in Malaysia. Okay, my literature review is about the Strata Titles Amendment Act 2007, followed by the Strata Title Amendment Act 2013 and Strata Title Amendment Act 2070 to construe the original proprietor, or we call it as the landowner, to apply strata title for special building. However, even the strata title registration is improved through the several amendments of Act that I said before. The parcel registration, or we call it as the unit of the subdivided building for the special buildings, have continued to exhibit a non-significant increase over the previous year. Okay, we can refer through the table as we can see it. This is the least unregistered strata title for special building. Okay, the scheme we have about 901, and the parcels we have about 96,000 and above. We can see it. The parcel is still unregistered because of what? Because of the strata title application makes the failure. Okay, this is the simple workflow how strata title application for special building is made. Okay, first we have special building certificate and we go through CIFER's application. What is CIFER's application? We call it Certificate of Share Unit Formula. This is the pre-application of strata title application. And then we go for the CPSP application. What is CPSP? CPSP is Certificate of Proposed Strata Plan. And then we go to the building subdivision application. And then we have to register and issue a strata title. And the strata title will be delivered to the parcel owner, or we say that as the owner of the property. This workflow take place at Land Office, Land and Mine Office, and also Survey and Mapping Department. I have go through the in-depth interviews through semi-structured interview form with respondents from different organizations and groups of people from government sectors and professional bodies. I have go through with the officers from the Department of Director General, Land and Mine Office, Penang Land Office and Mine, Selangor Land and Mine Office, Federal Territory of Kuala Lumpur Land and Mine Office, and also the licensed land surveyors. Okay, this is my findings and discussion. There are two factors that contribute to the failure of strata title application. After I finish my data collection last month, we have two categories of the factors that contribute to the failure. The first one is land matter issues, which means the subdivided building is not under the same lot. Express condition or category of land is contrary to the existing development order. Land title is still under qualified title, and also the unpaid land tax areas. The problems with the original proprietor as landowner or developer, which is wound up developer as original proprietor. When developer as an original proprietor are wound up, the parcel owners or the purchaser have to appoint liquidator to proceed with the strata title application with Land and Mine Office. However, the parcel owner is required to apply the court order for the appointed liquidator to apply the strata title on behalf of him or her, which means the purchaser of the property, which could involve high legal costs and take a long consuming for strata title issuance. As a conclusion and recommendation, the establishment of Strata Title Special Fund (TKHS) is established by Department of Director General Land and Mine Office that focus on low-cost housing development. And the second one is Strata Title Act needs to enhance and amend to allow local authorities to certify as bid plan prepared by licensed land surveyor. And the third one, the implementation of the fines of failure or delaying to apply for CPSP or building by the original proprietor or developer needs to be considered, because the existing laws, the existing acts doesn't consider the fines for the developer or any original proprietor that delay, that fail to apply for strata title. So that's why I can see that this is very important, because a developer is the stakeholder that they have to make sure the strata title is delivered to all parcel owner. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, any question from the audience, please? Sorry, I think I was lost. So, can you hear? Any question from the audience? All right, Miss Nurul.
Yes.
I think I couldn't the others. So, was there any question from the audience? No? I can't hear anyone. I guess the line is interrupted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Okay, because I was keep asking whether there is any question from the floor, and no one answered me, so I couldn't see. So anyway, shall I share with you what I think about your presentation?
Okay, for sure, Prof.
First of all, I like your visual. I mean, that it's a very clear presentation. Whatever, there are some things which is missing, so I just wanted to share with you. So your topic, it was in the same road with the previous presenter, right?
Yes, on strata title, certified development.
So it made me a little bit like Blair, because we thought that it was only in Penang and JB, but from your research, I found out that there are in KL, Selangor, Malacca, and others as well. So it's a little bit like confusing, which I think I'll have to spend some time to read a little bit more literature regarding this topic, or if our dear previous presenter is there, maybe during the break time, so you can both discuss why you do have different opinion about it. So my suggestion to you is that the same thing when you say when you wanted to start your your research, you for sure you did have found out some problem identification, some problem there, that you thought that you need to do this research, which is missing here. The reason for this problem identification, I couldn't find it here. And then regarding the methodology, so I don't think that your methodology for this research was only semi-structured interviews. So you might have another sources as well. And if it was only the semi-structured interview, so when you present, I need to know how many people, and I don't think that by quantity of 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, you mean that you spoke to only 9 people for this research. So the reason why you have picked this person, you should come up with supportive. Why this number? And what was the questions? A sample of your, the questions for the interview should be attached to your presentation. However, I know that you care about time management for your presentation, but still you could have it on your slides that I could see. What did you ask and which aim or objective could cover your question in the interview that you had?
Yeah.
So this is something which is missing, which I wanted you to explain a little bit about your interview, please.
Okay, for sure. So,
So I'm waiting for your answer. How did you pick these people to have the interview? How many exactly people? But what do you mean by this quantity? And then how many questions were in the interview? And how did they cover the objectives?
Okay. For my PhD research, I got four objectives. This paper is going to be my second objective achievement, which means I focus on the factors that contribute to the failure. Okay. Prof asking before, why I choose these respondents because I choose Kuala Lumpur, Selangor, Johor and Penang because the abundance of stratified buildings in these states. That's the reason why I choose KL, Selangor, Johor and Penang. And also I choose licensed land surveyors, only 1% because after this I'm still ongoing with my data collection in Johor also because I have finished my data collection in Penang and also KL. So that's why my licensed land surveyor is still 1%. However, because KL, Selangor and Johor that I choose as my study areas, because I said before, because of the abundance of the stratified buildings. But this research paper is not my output, my outcome of my research. My outcome of my research is focusing on critical success factor of strata data application for spatial buildings. Means my outcome is about the framework of critical success factor. Why these spatial buildings? Why I chose these spatial buildings? So this is my objective that achieved through my second objective. Okay, that's from me.
So what I'm saying is that, can you explain about the interview? How did you pick the interviewees, and then how many questions did you ask them during your interview, and how did it help you?
Okay, for the first session, of course,
According to your slide, the methodology, you said that you have done the in-depth interviews, but for me, it's in-depth observation, and then we do have semi-structured interviews. So let's say you have done semi-structured interview, and then you have written analyze using descriptive analysis to interpret the results from the interview. So where is it? I couldn't see it in your presentation. So since we don't have it in your slides, so can you just explain a little bit? How did you analyze the interviews?
okay, because my research is about qualitative analysis. So I use content analysis, which means I have to open all the strata data application in the land and mine office. The content analysis is what I got here. Land matters issues and original proprietor as landowner and developer. And then after I choose content analysis to analyze that I got from the file, strata data application file, and then through the interview, from the opinion and from the answer that respondent gave to me, I use descriptive analysis. So I have two analysis actually, but for this paper, I choose descriptive analysis. Does it answer your question now?
So still being honest with you, I didn't get my answer. Because what I'm saying is that what did you ask in the interviews?
Yes.
And then when you talk about your finding and discussions,
Yes.
I said that I appreciate your slides because it's like, I mean, very simple and minimalistic. But when it comes to academic writing and research language, so just pointing at land matters issues. So I didn't get it. So is it you're finding the land matter issues? So maybe you could come up with a proper writing for your finding because it's a little bit like confusing. Let's say that I would just have your presentation to check your confused land matter issues. What is it?
Okay. Before we go through the strata
You have explained to me. I know that you have explained during your presentation. What I'm saying is that on your slide, make a proper sentence to explain. I heard that you explained about it, but in your slide, just writing 3 words, land matters issues. It's confusing. It's very wide, and it can't be a finding of a proper, I mean, article writing. So these are mostly questions for you to answer.
Okay, my bad, because my slide is quite simple.
No, that's
Okay.
good. What I'm saying is that I point you for your minimalistic slide. It's very clear, but the only page which has, I mean, the only few pages that could be better is page number 9, finding and discussions. So I guess it could be more developed. I mean, more. You can improve it. I say you can improve it. And the another one was the slide number 8, which is missing to have the interview scenario.
Okay. Okay, interview scenario. Good.
So that was from me. If you want to add anything, I would be happy. Otherwise, I wish you good luck for your future studies.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Thank you for your suggestion. I hope that I can improve more and the other conference, inshallah. Okay, thank you, Prof.
I'm 100% sure. Inshallah, you will improve your presentation. And then your English was cute.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, my dear. So can we have next presentation, please? So I think I'm back now. I can hear you. So whenever you're ready, let me know to start your 10 minutes.
Okay. Thank you to Dr. Sharona.
Introduce yourself and
Alright.
your co-authors, please.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sharona. Assalamualaikum and hi to all the audience. My name is Mahazril Aini Yaakob. I co-authored with Dr. Nurul Hidayana from Faculty of Administrative Science and Policy Studies, UiTM Seremban Campus, and also another co-author is Dr. Shafiqur Rahman from Shah Jalal University, Bangladesh. Okay, so what I'm going to present today is part of our research finding from fundamental research grant funded by UiTM and also Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher Education. The title for my presentations today is Housing Policy and Practice in Malaysia. Are they adequate? Alright, so this is my presentation's outline. So a little bit on the background of the studies, a review of the literature, methodology, research findings, and recommendations and conclusion. Alright, so when we talk about housing, we all know that housing is the basic needs that need to be fulfilled to all the citizens. Okay, it has been highlighted by United Nations Development, whereby it highlighted that everybody need to be given an access to affordable and adequate housing. And the issues on housing also was outlined in Sustainable Development Goal under goal number 11, whereby everybody must have the opportunity either to rent or to own, and we are all should be given affordable and adequate housing. However, when we talk about access to housing, there are many problems that are faced by almost all of the citizens, not only in Malaysia, but also in other Western and also East Asian countries. And one of the issue was related to the housing affordability. And access to decent housing, access to decent housing was or what we call suffered or faced with the difficulties, especially among the younger generation. Okay, among the reason was due to the high price of housing that made the younger generation have a difficulties to access to adequate housing. And in Malaysia, there are a group of particular people, especially those who are living in the urban area, that suffering with the same problem, similar to the other countries. And this is a little bit on the literature review on the housing regime and provisions in Malaysia, because what we did for our research, we conducted a study drawing on Malaysia as the case study. We investigate more on whether the housing policy and practice is adequate to give the housing opportunity for all people in Malaysia. All right. So there are previous studies conducted that highlight about the housing regime and housing provisions in Malaysia as compared to the other country. And Malaysia is regarded as having a high home owners as compared to the Western country. It might be because of our housing aspirations, where our government policy and practice was skewed toward home ownership. So this is why we are considered as having a high proportions of the homeowners. And apart from that, when we talk about the policy regime, we can say that Malaysia is considered to have both comprehensive and also residual housing. So which means that residual housing, which means that state has a little involvement in housing development and housing constructions, whereby we left out to the market, private market in housing development and also housing construction. All right, and then in terms of the housing provisions, okay, apart from that, so when we talk about housing in Malaysia, okay, similar to the other country as well, like in Taiwan and South Korea, even in other Western country like UK, Australia, so we can consider that in terms of the housing consumptions, we are characterized as liberal in characteristic. This is because housing is highly commodified in our country, whereby those who are able to own, which means that it reflects your ability to pay. So if you have a high financial capability, which means that you have a high tendency to access to housing as compared to those people who have a lower ability. And this is a little bit on the housing players. Okay, so for all of for your information, so in Malaysia we have federal, state, and local government. We also have private involvement, which is private developers. Okay, and in Malaysia, federal government is responsible for outlining the housing policy. So that's why we have national housing policy. We even have national affordable housing policy, 2018, the latest one, until 2025, whereby this housing policy outlining the guideline, okay, in terms of the housing development and also housing construction to the housing developers. All right, so this is the main responsibility of the federal government in outlining or in legislating the policy. All right, so moving down to the state's government. So state government in Malaysia also responsible for maintaining and also developing the affordable housing. So we can say that since land is controlled by the state in Malaysia, so that's why each of the state also have their own affordable housing.
and they have a special provision for the housing development in their state. And for the local government, they do not directly involve in the housing development and housing constructions in Malaysia. But in Malaysia, we have some local government that deal directly in maintaining and developing the housing system. For instance, in Kuala Lumpur, okay, we have Kuala Lumpur City Council and also Petaling Jaya, whereby this local government, they responsible in providing the affordable housing under their responsibility. So that is a little bit on the housing players in the systems of Malaysian government. So moving on to the methodology, since actually for our research grant, we conducted a mixed method, but for the purpose of today's presentations, I'll bring along the discussion on the part of the qualitative research method only, whereby it was done using the participatory action research and the Delphi technique, and we have conducted the observations and in-depth interview with 20 key informants in the Greater KL in Malaysia. So we are using purposive sampling technique. So whereby among these 12 participants were young people. We select them based on the inclusion criteria. We have the criteria in terms of their age, they must be not a homeowner, they must be currently renting, and the other inclusion criteria. And the other 8 key informant consists of National Housing Department, informant from the National Housing Department. This is under Ministry of Urban Wellbeing and Housing and Local Government in Malaysia. And we also have informant from PRIMA. PRIMA is one of the federal government body which is responsible for affordable housing development in Malaysia. And we also have informant from REHDA. REHDA is Real Estate Housing Developer Associations, and also informant from House Buyer Association. And the interview were conducted based on the interview protocol, and we have analyzed the data using the thematic analysis. Okay, so now this is the research finding. Actually, we have identified and we have found quite many themes for our research finding, but in my presentations today, we highlighted 2 only, okay? So the question is whether the housing policy and practice in Malaysia adequate in providing the housing opportunities for all people, especially the younger generation. Okay, and based on our finding, we found that there are two main results. Okay, we found that based on the informants' feedback, okay, we team up, and then the first main reason that lead to the deficiency, okay, whether they are adequate or not, okay, based on the finding, it shows that to a certain extent, the informant agree that yes, we do have the housing policy, it's quite comprehensive, but not fully inclusive to all, right? Because why? Because housing policy and practice in Malaysia are skewed toward the pro-home ownership policy. So why pro-home ownership policy? Because we have so many housing schemes in Malaysia, but if we look at the housing schemes that that government initiated, these schemes are more in helping the lower income group to own, all right? Instead of inclusive to all group.
My dear, please mind your time as well.
Okay. Okay, the second one, I'm trying to have a quick discussions on this one. And then the second finding that we found is the non-uniformity of housing distributions and lack of coordination among housing agency. Why we found this finding? Well, because as I told you just now, the layers of our key players, because federal also have their own policy, and then state also have their own policy because state also have their own housing development. So there is lack of coordination between federal and also state government, which contribute to the lack of coordinations and non-uniformity, because each of the state, they have their own guideline. Okay, for example, so in some state, they impose that there are 30%. In housing development, there should be a 30% for Bumiputra quota. But in other states, they put it like 50%. So there is the inconsistency of the housing policy in each of the state that contributed to the non-inclusive housing policy. So as such, okay, we have come up with a proposal. I mean, the strategies that we propose as a policy recommendation. All right. So based on the finding, it can be said that our government should focus more on the alternative form of housing assistance. So instead of focusing on home ownership alone, we should have another option, such as strengthen the rental regulation in our country, because access to housing doesn't mean that people should own. Okay, what is the most important is we have the roof over our head. So regardless of they own or they rent, they should have an access to adequate housing, and the government should provide any form of housing assistance to them. And then moving on to the next recommendation is strengthening the rental regulations. In Malaysia, we are lacking in terms of our rental regulation. So which means that there is no control or monitoring from the government in terms of the renting price, or in terms of the relationship between the renters and also the landlord. So this make the rental regulation is not in a good side, because even to rent also, these people, they face difficulties due to the high rental price. And then the last but not least, we also suggest the government to strengthen the cooperation between the states and also housing agency, because the finding shows that there are lack of coordination between these two parties. So perhaps they need to work hand in hand in providing access to housing, not only to a certain group of people, but also to all, because housing should be inclusive, and everybody need to be given an access to adequate housing. So I will say that we have that kind of the housing initiative or housing practice in Malaysia, but to a certain extent, they are in a deficiency, because there are a deficiency of the housing policy and practice in our country, which required further attention from the government to make sure that it's inclusive to all. So with that, I end up my presentations today. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. I wish you could manage your time a little bit better. Good job regarding your background study. That was very clear, informative. Research, I mean, the literature review, well done. But there are still few points that I wanted to check with you. There is something that I want to check with you. So you said that on the last slide, when you wanted to talk about the conclusion, I mean, the findings and recommendation, if I'm not mistaken, you said that there's strong cooperation between estates and housing agencies. And strongly you pointed that there is no control from the government on the agencies, which I honestly, I don't accept it from you, because you can't say there is no control. So you can say that there is a lack of control, but you cannot say that no control, but definitely there are some controls from the government on the agencies. We can't, when we talk academically and then we are presenting an article, we cannot put into it our own perception. So we should talk about facts. So according to the facts and rules, so everyone knows that if they face any housing agencies that they are doing corruptions or whatever, you can always go to the local governmental sectors to the complaint. So what I'm saying is that you can never say that there is no control. So we don't have such a thing in articles when we talk about it. So in your methodology, I have seen whatever it is, it's good. Whatever you have written in this slide, it's proper. But when you say that you have done observation and in-depth interviews, in-depth interviews is acceptable. I can understand that you have done interviews. But what do you mean by observing? Have you watched observing young generation that they couldn't have house, so we cannot call it observation, in-depth observation. So do you have any explanation? What do you mean by observation as your methodology, please?
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for your feedback. Actually, what we did on our observation was related to some, document, okay, from the informant, from the agencies. So that's what we mean by some observations. Like, we are looking at what are the current policies, or what are the current regulations and legislations that they have. And some of the interview that we have conducted with the younger generations also were done at their rental houses. So we are also actually looking at the quality of the houses, whether they have the agreement with the landlord and so on. So that's what we meant by the observations that we have done for our research, Doctor.
Okay, so shall we edit it and saying it that in this way? So when you collect data, like look into the files and documents that they have, the evidences that the agencies they have. So shall we just call it as data collection, secondhand data collection? There are some documents from the agencies that you try to collect it. You cannot call it as observation. So I don't think that we call it as observation. But if you're saying that you have observed the quality of the houses, I guess it's not very into your topic to observe the quality of the housing, because you never mentioned regarding, anything in your literature to support that you needed to check the quality of the houses as well. So I guess just the word observation can be revised. Same as other presenter, please, when you say that you have done an interview or questionnaire, so we need to have it as attachment to your presentation, whatever was that. So we need to see how did it go with the interview, what were the questions, whom did you ask, and then all these things to cover your objectives. And you talk about unstable housing market in Malaysia. I am familiar with Malaysia, but for any foreigner who is not very familiar, can you tell me what do you mean by unstable housing market in Malaysia? So when you bring it out that you have unstable housing market, so you should come up with supportive document saying that let's say in 3 years an apartment in Damansara has been, the rental has been raised from 600 ringgit to 2,000 ringgit, something like that. You should come up with some statement, some proof. You cannot simply saying that my country has unstable housing market. So based on what? Okay. So you should come up with some supportive statement saying that these are the prices that we try to monitor in 2 years, in 3 months, in 6 months. Whatever you point, these are something a little bit like sensitive regarding the country when we do some research and you want to spread it global. So we have to be very careful by saying that there is no control from the government on the agencies, or saying that we have unstable housing market, because this is a little bit like subjective. In my country, last year you could buy a house by 1 million ringgit. Today you have to buy this house by 300 million, something like that. 3 million ringgit, something like that. It's just like 3 times more expensive. So for me, it's a little bit like subjective. But in Malaysia, I used to rent a place, let's say like 10 years ago for 3,000 ringgit. And now I guess it's 2,300. So it's only like 300 extra, something like that. So it's very subjective. When you say that your country has unstable housing market, you should bring the point, how many percent it has been increased. So what do you mean exactly by that, to make it very clear? So these are the ways saying that, some recommendation to you more than question. And the last thing that I wanted to point is that Do you have in mind for future, maybe you can consider, does culture play any role in young generation housing? Is it like something in the culture that young generation are getting lazier, they don't want to move? Or does it have anything to do with the culture? Maybe you can look into it. Sometimes it's not only the financial issues. I mean, because I know Malaysia, they do support, I mean, the government support young generation, especially in Malay, if they want to buy or they want to rent, whatever it is, if they can prove that they are active and then they can have a job, they have some salaries, they can get loan and all these things. So, maybe I'm too positive regarding Malaysia, but I have it in mind that Malaysia is very supportive towards the young generation. So, but the thing is that does culture plays any role in this kind of changes? So maybe for your future studies you can consider that too.
Yes, correct.
So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharona, for your recommendations. I was thinking about that also in our future studies. So perhaps I can extend our research and apply for another grant and put the culture as one of the maybe mediating factors in looking.
Come on, you see, you're getting a grant for doing this research, and then you're saying that the government is not helping your
because
generation.
that's what we found. Yeah, I agree with you to the certain extent that actually we have the evidence. So it's just that I agree. I should put that statistic. Okay, that statistic that the percentage that shows when we argued. So I'll take note to that, Dr. Sharona, because even though it is funded by the government grant, but to the certain extent, we need to be practical that we have to accept the finding and actually we plan to present this in front of the officers from the National Housing Department, so perhaps they can get something from our finding for their future policy improvement. So we are hoping that, Doctor.
I hope to.
Okay,
so
thank
good
you
luck
so
with
much.
your future studies.
Thank
You're welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. So can we move to our next presenter, please, if there is no question from the floor? So I guess the next presentation is regarding the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? By Dr. Farah?
Yes, Dr. Sharona. Okay, may I share the screen?
Hello, Dr. Farah. Sure, please do share the screen with us. We're waiting for you.
Before I start the presentation, this is only a very simple research, Doctor. very simple research.
Don't criticize your presentation before starting.
Okay, Doctor. Okay, Doctor, can you see my slide?
Yes, as usual, please have in mind that you have 10 minutes and then start by presenting the title and then introducing yourself and your co-authors, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We are all here.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and very good evening to Dr. Sharona and all of the audience. So the title of of my team article is the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on Petaling Jaya Police Officer. So I am the main author and this is my team member, Janiwati, Nurul Hidayana, Muhammad Idham, and one of our international co-author is Dr. Dewi Harsono from Indonesia, University of Airlangga. Okay, so for introduction, working as a police officer entails much stress and a lot of unpleasant situation. So this can harm the police officer mental, physical health, interpersonal relationship, and also their work-life balance.
police officers play a crucial role in guaranteeing the safety of the resident, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, police officer, they need to organize the local shutdown, promote social distance, and also enforce stay at home order. Okay, hence it's very important to study the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on stress and conflict among police officers. Okay, Malaysia issued a movement control order to halt COVID-19 from spreading around the country. So the Malaysian Armed Force and the Royal Malaysian Police, PDRM, and other authorities regulate the citizen movement. Okay, so many police officers have been exposed to this disease risk. Okay, and COVID-19 have impacted the ability of the police officer to execute their duties because they are also afraid of this disease. Okay, and before COVID-19, police officers have faced a long and frequently rotating shift, and then they exposed to the threat of violence, and they are required to be hyper vigilant, and this can affect their mental and also can cause stress and conflict among police officer. Okay. Okay, so for the literature review, okay, sustainable goal has stated that goal 16 to be focused on stipulated that everyone should have access to justice. As a result, police officers play an important role in guaranteeing the safety of the resident by protecting their life. Okay, and also for the definition of stress, stress is a psychological stress brought on by one person job. Okay, so workplace stress can impact the employee in terms of their emotional, their well-being, their physical health, and so on. Okay, conflict on the other hand is defined as an interactive process characterized by incompatibility, disagreement, or discord inside or between a social unit. Okay. Okay, for the methodology for this research, our team are using quantitative research, okay, and then we distribute the questionnaire using Google Form, and the questionnaire is circulated through online platform such as WhatsApp and also Facebook. Okay, however, only 53 police officer from Petaling Jaya District Police Headquarters that respond to this questionnaire. Okay, and then sampling that we use are convenient sampling, and the data is analyzed by using SPSS. Okay, okay, from finding and discussion, maybe I can, because we have only 10 minutes, maybe I can, skip to the important section, which is the potential source of stress. Okay. Okay, so for the question, are the tasks assigned to the police officer since COVID-19 pandemic has put more pressure on them than before, resulting in 70% of them agree compared to 30%. Okay, according to the study by Barasa, changes in environment or changes in anything, for example, in terms of work, in terms of the process, can affect or influence the police officer performance. Okay, and the changes can be positive or negative. It depends on the changes, but in this case it will be negative because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, next is workload. Okay, for the question whether the police officer feel more depressed since the COVID-19 pandemic along with the workload give to them, 59% of them did not feel depressed compared to 41%. Okay. However, we do have interviewed the counselor at the Petaling Jaya headquarters, and they also stated that during the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of police officers come to see the counselor because they are feeling depressed, and also most of them doesn't want to let other people know because mental health is something considered as something that can what we call as ruin their might affect their ego. Okay, so some of them doesn't want their mental health to be known to others. Okay, some of them are very secretive. Okay, okay. Although 59% of them did not feel depressed, but 41, nearly half of them are feel depressed. Okay, in terms of status and salary, according to 57% of the police officer, since the COVID-19 pandemic, financial problems have not been stressed to them compared to 43% of the remaining police officer. Okay, in one study, they have stated that the performance of the police officer is depend on their salary. Okay, in other words, inequitable compensation might hurt their ability to perform well at work. Okay, so we must be concerned at this 43% of this of the police officer. Okay. Okay, bullying in the workplace. According to 58% of the police officer, they are not feel more stressed with supervisor or superior or colleagues since COVID-19 pandemic, along with the workload given to them. Example of lack of support from co-worker or negative co-worker behavior, including fight, work-related bullying, compared to 42% of the remaining police officer that felt they are being bullied by their co-worker.
Maite, you have only 1 minute left.
All right, doctor. And then this show that in one study, it stated that even senior rank of police officer face bullying. Okay, we always think that lower rank of police officer will face bullying, but not the case for senior police officer, because they are being influenced by the upper level of police officer. Okay, usually lower level of police officer, they are receiving instruction. Okay. Okay, next is cause of conflict. Okay, so based on the finding, 66% of the police officer agreed that ineffective communication can cause conflict because during this situation, effective communication are very important because we are receiving instruction, okay, from our team. Okay, next is personality different. Okay, different value between generation, for example Gen X, Gen Y, Gen XY. Okay, 64% of the police officer agreed. Okay, this can cause conflict. Okay, because different generation value different things. They doesn't have the same understanding on the same thing. Okay, so this can contribute to the poor mood and also can affect the communication between police officer that have different personalities. Okay, conclusion. We can say that COVID-19 pandemic have put more pressure on the police officer than before. Near half of the respondents agreed that police officers feel more depressed since COVID-19 pandemic and their workload. Okay, near half of the respondents agreed that since the COVID-19 pandemic, financial problem has been the stressor. Okay, furthermore, most police officers agreed that poor communication problem and different value or belief during COVID-19 between co-worker and supervisor could cause conflict in the workplace. Okay, so thank you. I open for Q&A session.
So thank you, my dear. against what you said, I really enjoyed your graphic, your presentation. That was quite interesting. Very simple, informative. So I like your graphic design. So any question from the floor, please? So then I will go by my own questions. According to your research, could you point to any literature review who has done this research? That having any questionnaire regarding level of satisfaction between the police officers before COVID-19?
There are few articles regarding stress and conflict among police officers, but I did not see the sample of questionnaire.
All right, because what I was thinking is that you pointed, they have a little bit of like one of the main stressor for them is financial issue. So, but I couldn't find in your presentation whether was there any changes in their salary during the COVID? Did they, the salary was increased or decreased?
I understand.
So we don't know whether do they complain regarding the, charges that they had to pay, let's say for any family members who got into, sicknesses of COVID, that they had to pay more, or their children, they had to get online education and they need to provide digital, mobile phones or laptops for the kids, whatever it is. But was there any changes in their salary rate during the COVID?
I think
You don't know.
I don't know, but based on the
Right.
talk with the police officer, because our research is first we want to do the survey, second we want to do the extensive interview with the police officer. Okay, just to understand, for example, in terms of financial, what are the issue that they face. That one we doesn't come to the issue yet. Explore the issue that faced during COVID-19 pandemic.
All right. Yeah, because when we say that they face this financial issue, but we have no proper information regarding what was their point of view overall regarding the financial issue as a main stressor before COVID-19. So, and then what are the changes? So this is one thing that I wanted to see in your presentation. And then do you have the number of, police officers that have been taken ill during the COVID-19?
The actually number of the police officer is according to the head of the corporate is, I think, around 200 something, doctor.
That they have been taken ill by COVID-19 during the pandemic, right?
Yes, all of the police officer in that Petaling Jaya is involved in COVID-19 action, MCO.
All right. So one of the main stressor could be for them to face the prisoners, or anyone who would attend to police stations, that they have to take care whether they are having this COVID-19 illnesses with them, that they can, as a pandemic, it could give them some stressors. So I just want to know, do you have the real ratio of, based on the gender between the police officers? So, they are mostly men officers, right?
Yes, doctor. Mostly
So
men.
did you think about it like, divide your research saying that men police officers stressor? So because I think maybe it's my point of view, and then you can check with your authors, but sometimes it's good that we narrow down what we do when we do the research, because the stressors between men and women, women are different. So maybe that was a better idea to separate the research between men police officers and women police officers, right?
Very good idea, Doctor. Yes.
All right. Okay, and then SPSS, I guess there are a little bit of, I mean, you could come up, you have done a good job, but you could come up with a little bit of like comparison. You could come up with saying that some of your variables saying that when you put the both genders, men and women, I was thinking maybe you can take it saying that a woman in financial, I mean, facing the financial stressor, how do they react? Or regarding the whole scenario of sicknesses or whatever they had, like, I mean, dealing online, I mean, the communication that they have with the others. So you should come up with something when you pick both genders. It's not like comparison, but you should point it like, I mean, a little bit like more, make it more powerful.
I agree
Your
that
article.
because one of the article that I have read, there are issue also women that face bullying in the police department by their colleague. That
So
majority
was
of
that before COVID-19 or after COVID-19?
before
Or
before
during
that
the COVID-19? So
before
yeah,
that.
but the thing is that since we are doing this during the COVID-19 pandemic, I was thinking that maybe you could come up with something, make it a little bit like more strong, your paper. But altogether, it's a very good point because during the pandemic, everyone did care about medical department. I mean, doctors, nurses, and all the caregivers. But not that much people did care about the policies, but they were really involved with the prisoners, and they had to attend all the emergencies. So, and then they helped a lot to fight the COVID-19. So that's a very good contribution, a very good topic that you choose, which
Thank you, Doctor.
match the title of the conference, Having a Better Life Together. But my suggestion to you is that coming up to listing the main stressors, one of the main stressors can be lack of information. So maybe they did need to have a more proper information regarding what's going to happen in future to them, what will happen to them if any of them will get sick. I mean, I mean, all the scenarios should be look into it more in depth, maybe for future studies.
I agree, Doctor. I agree.
Thank you. So I like your your research and your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. But after this, the
So
presentation
if
will
there
be
is,
me again.
so thanks for your presenting. And then if there is any question from the floor, I would be happy to hear. Otherwise, we can proceed with our next presenter. So, and good luck, Dr. Farah.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. So our next presentation, it's gonna be you again, social mobility. So when you're ready, you just let me know.
Okay, Doctor. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the next paper, the next article is social mobility of orang asli, a case study in Kampung Sungai Raya, Negeri Sembilan, Malaysia. Okay, so I am the main author, followed by Professor Nur Hafizah Muhammad Haris, Prof. Azizan Zainuddin, Dr. Zarina Muhammad Zain, and co-international author is Dr. Dewi Harsono from University of Airlangga, Indonesia. Okay, so for introduction, okay, social mobility exists because of the cause and effect of collective or individual movement arising from changes in social system. Okay, changes in social system, for example, in terms of changes in education, changes in technology use, changes in employment opportunities, and so on. This can change the social system of one individual or group. Okay, so Malaysia was ranked 43rd in the World Economic Forum Global Social Mobility Report released in 2020. So this indicate that Malaysian have fewer chance in terms of factor that I have mentioned before, in terms of education and so on. Okay, so social mobility impact indigenous people in terms of their employment, education, and also the danger of exclusion from other community. Okay, Malaysian indigenous people make up a significant portion of the country population, and orang asli are divided into three groups. That is Senoi, the Proto-Malay or Malay first, and the Negrit. Okay, so this study investigate the impact of health, education, work possibility, social capital, culture capital, technological access, social security, and area-based factor on indigenous people social mobility. Okay. Okay, literature review. Okay, Malaysia indigenous people make up a significant portion of the country, as I said before, and their population is about 140,000 to 180,000. Okay, orang asli activity include hunting and harvesting agriculture commodities. On the other hand, their manner of life have undergone significant changes because of the development that Malaysian face now. Okay, and then this development caused changes in terms of forest, environment, government policy favor agriculture and resettlement, resulting in changes in the local economy of orang asli. And Malaysian government, especially JAKWA, the Department of Orang Asli, have improved the economy, religion, education, communication, and health of the orang asli in Malaysia. Okay, definition of social mobility. According to Korea Development Institute, social mobility is the multi-dimensional word that refers to a person standing within a society that is shifting. Okay, and it is linked to the idea of economic mobility, which is based on earning, profit, and riches. Okay, for example, like let's say the parent. Okay, the parent working in the agriculture sector. Okay, if there is a social mobility that moving upward, okay, their children may work in other sector other than agriculture, maybe in the technological sector or manufacturing sector and so on. Okay, and then the social mobility can move upward or downward. Okay, it depend on the situation. Okay, and then factor influencing social mobility include like I said before, education, employment, health, technology, and so on. Okay, for methodology, the qualitative research design is used in this study. For data collection, face-to-face interview are conducted using Google Meet due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, and the target group of the study are orang asli from Sungai Raya village in Negeri Sembilan. So the central team is categorized into 8 main team, that is demography, social capital, cultural capital, family and community support on educational aspect, fair work opportunity, health, infrastructure and technology. Okay, and data collected is analyzed using thematic analysis. Okay, so this is the following question that we have asked the respondent, okay, regarding the education, regarding their culture, regarding their technology use and so on. Okay, for finding and discussion, in terms of demography, okay, we can see that both of the respondents have lived in the particular area since they were little. Okay, And according to a study, most of the indigenous people or orang asli will live in the same place for a long time, for a long period of time, unless there are anything happen. For example, like maybe they have to work to another state, or maybe they get married and then they have to transfer to another state, or so on. Okay, but if there is nothing happen, they will stay at that place for a long period of time. Okay, in terms of social capital, both of the respondents are very close to the community, okay, with their neighbor and with their friend. Okay, and some of the neighbor are also their relative, for example, their uncle, their auntie, their cousin. Okay, and they are very close knit community, and also they are never in the situation that against each other. Okay, means that they are very close to one another. So in social mobility, social capital is very important. Okay, because we need a strong social capital to improve our well-being or improve our life. Okay, this social capital can actually motivate the people, okay, to become a better person. Okay, so it shows that upward social mobility is happening. Okay, next is cultural capital. Okay, when asked whether the culture is that can limit the way of life. Okay, there is no clashing between the culture and also changes in their life. Okay, the culture is moving the same direction with their life. Okay, and there is no limitation to the culture. Okay, so because in social mobility, sometimes the culture can be a hindrance. Okay, to people to improve. Okay, not only based on culture like norm, but also in working culture. For example, like if we do not want to change to a better process, let's say, that is also hindrance because we are so used with the culture. Okay, this is in terms of cultural capital. Okay, in terms of family and community support, community support on
Marty,
education.
you have 1 minute left.
Oh, sorry, Doctor. Okay, all of their children go to school. Okay, and then they stress emphasis on education, which is important. Okay, next is work opportunity. All of their children, all of the respondent children have a job, and then both of the respondent work in the factory. Okay, and then in terms of health, the Malaysian government do assist them. For example, especially during COVID-19 pandemic, okay, they receive vaccination, and almost all of the community there receive the third vaccine booster shot, and also there are free medical fee and also regular medical checkup from the officer. And then based on my experience interview with this respondent, they are very health conscious. Okay, for example, when I want to meet them for interview, they ask for Google Meet because they afraid that I might infected them with COVID and they might infected the villager with COVID. So they are very health conscious, and also they take care of themselves. Okay, and then in terms of infrastructure, they are quite lucky because the infrastructure in that area is good. Okay, government have repaired the road, even the house, and also built community hall for the villager to hold meeting. And then in technology, both of the respondents know how to use technology, for example, like system, computer, because their work, their activities, their work have required them to use the technology. Okay, all right. In conclusion, based on my
Make it faster.
sorry, Doctor, social mobility does affect the community. Social mobility also in this study moves smoothly as the culture does not restrict or limit the changes in orang asli life. The respondent have a job that required them to use computer technology. The current and future generation know the importance of education, as all of the children go to school, and the government do play a significant responsibility in accommodating social mobility among orang asli in this village. Thank you.
Thank you. So, any question from the floor? Today, our audiences are very quiet. This is the first time that we never had any question from the floor. All right. So, if you're done, I just wanted to check with you something. First of all, I couldn't see the relationship between the pictures that you put in the presentation and the topic. Whereas the pictures, orang asli, are very unique to see. I would rather to have some picture of the, the houses, the clothes, and all these things, but it's missing here. I don't know. Maybe you didn't have time to prepare your presentation as interesting as it was in your previous. So anyway, yeah, I guess you can improve your presentation on. Yeah, the one that we see. Graphic. So, few things that I wanted to check with you. You have mentioned during your where was that findings about the technology. So you said that I know how to. They know how to drive. They know how to use mobile phones and computers. Did you point it as technology? It can be one of the main changes. Main reason for the changes in their lifestyle. So before that, how did you pick to ask about the technology infrastructure and all these things? Was that any literature that the orang asli life might be affected by cultural capital, family support, work opportunities, health, technology, and infrastructure? Why did you pick this 8? How did you pick it? Was that based on a literature review?
Yes, Doctor. It is based on the United Nations Global Social Mobility Index.
So before me asking you, I would rather to have it here in your slide.
All right,
Make a
Doctor.
point saying that these are the 8 criteria that has been proposed by the UN. What did you say? World Health Organization. So these are the things which is missing in your slide, but I was sure that you had it. And so in your conclusion, I want to have your own opinion. Social mobility for orang asli, is it a good thing or bad thing? Is it positive or negative?
For me, based on my interview with them, it is a very positive because their parents are focusing on farmers, focusing on agriculture, and they are not stressed enough education on the children, whether they want to go to school or not. However, for the next generation where the respondent answered the question, they really stress in terms of education, and also they really know what is going on, and also they stress the importance of the use of the technology. They do not want to be left behind.
All right, but how about the sustainability? Because we do have terms of sustainable society, and part of the sustainability is how to keep our orang asli in our countries. So to, give them the opportunities that they want to have. The facilities at the same time they could remain the culture, and then they keep it there. And my last comment goes to your group of interviewees. So you have written that you have interviewed group of orang asli, but when it comes to the result, you only mentioned 2. Madam T and Madam S. So I thought you might could have.
Only 2, Doctor.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is that maybe you could come up saying that in this kampung, we did have, let's say, 50 families. From these 50 families, 40 of them got computer and they were willing to have an interview. So, and that was much better if you could use bigger number of interviewees.
Mm.
Only
The area
two. I'm not sure whether we can generalize it to the whole kampung.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Not all people in
Yeah,
the kampung.
yeah, because we do have to have some ratio saying that. So I was asking, let's say I had a questionnaire, which the questionnaire was like 20 questions in there. So we have to have at least 100 interviews. There is some relationship between the number of questions and the people that we question them. So we cannot simply say that, so I had only 2 interviews. So this is something that you have to bear in mind.
All right, Doctor.
All right. You're welcome. Good luck with your future studies.
Thank you, Dr. Sharona. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So if there is no more question, can we proceed with our next presentation, please?
Hi. Hi.
Miss
Yeah,
Hong Sin Lam.
that's right. Hi.
Welcome. So anytime you're ready, as soon as you're ready with sharing your slide, I will put your 10 minutes to start.
Okay.
And please introduce yourself and your co-authors, please.
Oh, the slides. Is it visible?
Yep, I do have it here, and now I can see it from the sharing slide as well.
Okay. So I also updated the slide to a new one.
All right. So I don't know whether it's okay with the rules of conference, because
right.
I don't know whether it's different, but you can ask Prof. Yusuf anytime. So I'm all ears, and your 10 minutes started just now. I will off my mic and I will be hearing your presentation and introducing yourself and your co-author, please.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Skorana. And also good afternoon to all the audience who are present online and also at Penang now. My title of the today's research paper is Boundary Spanning in Disaster Risk Reduction and Recovery through Solution-Focused Coaching Approach. I'm Lam Fong Sin. I'm Miss Lam Fong Sin from Universiti Teknologi MARA from Selangor. As you can see that we had a very bad flood recently in December 2021, one in rural, in Pahang, and also even in urban areas. Usually we do have monsoon season and the flood is pretty bad there. But this time around it hit urban areas as well. Transport vehicles were totally submerged. So in rural areas, people who are poor and also vulnerable are most badly affected. But the UC play an important role in bridging boundaries between different stakeholders with the local community and also government agencies. So in this paper, I've developed a model that uses solution-focused coaching and boundary spanning practices. Solution-focused coaching can support sustainability and transdisciplinary practitioners working in collaboration with other stakeholders. And also, it is an opportunity to create a future-focused collaborative conversation that empowers stakeholders to take precaution and to prevent further damage. So there are authors who use this method with healthcare workers in the United States. The solution-focused approach to help them to prevent from burnout during a disaster. There was a disaster and they need to care for the victims. So they experience a lot of burnout. And also In Japan, there are boundary spanners who facilitated transdisciplinary across neighborhood associations with government agency. The difference between a solution-focused method is that it is solution-focused based rather than focusing on the problem. So right now in Malaysia, and I'm sure in many parts of the world, we respond to disaster in a reactive way. We also focus on what's wrong. There was slow flood response, inability to handle climate change, and there was a lot of blame on the public or the government's department. And it's very much a top-down approach and very low trust towards the government. But in a solution-focused approach, we focus on more proactive methods and also adaptive management and multidisciplinary approach that call for all participation from the public and also to build better trust between the government and also the communities. So the objective of this study is to develop a conceptual framework that combines boundary spanning practices with principles of solution-focused coaching to engage stakeholders in university, community, disaster risk reduction and recovery partnership projects. The context for the model development is based on, so I have been going to rural areas to conduct research on, so this time I have a funding on to conduct research on multi-stakeholder partnership using social network analysis in post-disaster housing recovery at Temerloh for 2020 and 2021 flood. It wasn't the recent flood, it was the flood last year. So this is the house that has total damage. There was about 5 of the houses which has cannot be occupied at Kampung Batu Kapau in Mentakap. So in this, I would like to build up a network map of all the agencies that's involved in the housing recovery of the rural villages. And also based on the flood cleanup. So it was very difficult to find volunteers to actually help out with the flood cleanup, the recent one. Extremely difficult. But we do get some, and the water level has gone up to the roof. And also there was everything was damaged. And then when we went there, there was NGOs, many NGOs who went to Kampung Batu Kapau to actually help out in the cleanup. So my students only got to go there following 2 weeks where cleanup has already done because they were having holidays, they couldn't go. And also they managed to lay the carpets for the hit village. And also a restaurant, we just went there on 27th February. We helped a restaurant owner to clean up the chairs and also to wash the dishes. So the roadside eatery owner is finding difficulty to recover even from the COVID-19 pandemic, and the government is not giving them any financial aid because they are business owner. So he has to wait till he has capital to restart his business. We just help out with the cleanup. So this is the so the solution-focused method is actually developed in the 1980s by the Scherzer. It's actually an interviewing technique to help clients in family therapy in the United States. So I have developed an integrated model that combine the solution-focused coaching and also boundary spanning practices. This model shows a sequence of coaching process and also boundary spanning activities that motivate stakeholders to cross boundaries and to build more resilient communities. So first of all, the first practice is to buffer and to reflect. So in order for stakeholders, community and government agency to collaborate, they must feel secure. They cannot feel threatened. So we would like to. So what we do is we will conduct dialogues. We will conduct separately. In the first phase of buffering, we will find out. We will ask them questions, and we'll interview them and encourage them to get out of the problem and work towards a solution. For example, the values and the vulnerabilities that they are facing today. So we will go to the public first, and how the individual citizens are implementing their own mitigation measures. And then we will then go into the disaster manager and the community planners. We will ask them, how do they work with communities in the disaster management plan. Okay.
Manji, you have 1 minute left.
Oh, okay, 1 minute left. Okay, so yeah, sorry. So this is so in reflecting, we will gather, we'll connect communities after we find out their concerns with the government agency through meetings, advisory committee, and community projects and resilience research. So it's very important to actually use boundary objects in order to engage stakeholders to work together. So these are artifacts. You can do flip narrative, Facebook, or an ICT that engage stakeholders together, public outreach. So we will also turn their wishes and complaints to goals, and what are the small steps that they can do now, what's happening right now, and what would they prefer to see miracles to happen that they wouldn't even ever suffer. So we will want to have miracle questions that is part of the solution focused approach, and that hopefully they can work towards it. So we will also help them to scale from 0 to 10 their preparedness knowledge and the household level, and the preparedness at the community level related to drills, and also waste management. In rural Malaysia, in villages, they don't have a system that collects the rubbish, but they do open burning. There's no formal waste collection. So we will also want them to, from one point, how can they get to closer to 10 points by engaging with other stakeholders to come in, and also to in phase 5 to implement alternatives that can be evaluated and also be improved over the time. So this is my conclusion. This model has not been validated, so I will need to collect data in order to determine its effectiveness on university students, technical members, and also on the benefits that it brings to the stakeholders and the governments.
So thank you. Your topic it did attract my attention a lot, and I like it. I really appreciate your support. It's a little difficult for me, as you said, it hasn't been evaluated yet, and there's something which is missing. I was witnessing during your presentation, like more than a research, it was a real project that you shared with us, and I really enjoyed that. But it's a little bit difficult to give you some mark for that, because I would rather to have some literature review saying that who has done some research, some citation there. In the presentation that I have from you, the slides that I have, there is no list of references, which is missing. But forgetting about this scenario, you have done a big job for the community, and I appreciate your personality that you could do that. So that's great, but this is something that I have to check with Prof. Yusuf, how we are going to evaluate your research, because it was more a project, a real project. It's very practical, and I think there is no problem with that. So maybe you are the pioneer of this research and no one has done that in Malaysia before. That's why you had lack of supportive literature. But what you have done, it can be a basis on for the future research.
Okay.
But sometimes you could come up with some case studies from other countries, maybe, and some citations. But overall, very good job.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I see that the rural villages, they are very happy. When flood comes, they are actually not complaining, and the government actually done a great job repairing their homes. But the problem is that the next year the water goes up to the roof level again. So there was a house reconstruction again. So there's a lot of cost wastage as material and cost wastage also. So there are areas that we can actually look into and improve to save the government money, and also I'm not sure that's why it's a wicked problem. So it's a bit hard to solve sometimes.
So thank you. I have no more comments. That was just a few things that I shared with you that I'll have to check with Prof. Yusuf as well. And maybe for future presentation, you might get help from other cases from other countries sometimes, maybe.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, because I hear that you want more photos, so I actually included photo at the very last minute.
No, that was not something that I wanted to make it very personal. This is something that a professional way of presenting is.
Yeah, that's
it's more, and it did help your presentation a lot. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So can we have our last presenter?
Yes.
Miss Nurliana?
Yes. Dr. Sharona?
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. All right. My name is...
And introduce your co-authors if you have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I'm Noliana Zahira binti Zaharuddin, and my co-author is Dr. Azarina binti Zakaria from Faculty of Business and Management. And we don't have any international author. All right. Our research is about exploring donor relationship management for funding among Malaysian social welfare NGOs. Okay, this is the outline of this research, which is I want to explain one by one, and I try to make it short. All right. Okay. First, the NGOs, as we all know, NGOs is a non-government organization, or in other countries, it's named like civil society. So NGO is the third largest sector in the world after the government agencies and corporations. Okay, and the world, and also in Malaysia, which is I focus in Malaysia. Okay, and this is the articles, the current articles that shows that NGOs in Malaysia have the funding problem, which is the funding is very limited, and they cannot implement the project very well, and sometimes they still depend on the government fund or the donors fund to support their activities. All right. And then, okay, this is another article that shows that NGOs have the funding issues. All right. Next, the other issues is the funding rivalry, meaning that here the statistic or the data from the Registrar of Society Malaysia shows that the number of registered Malaysian NGOs increased, and the funding allocated for the Malaysian NGOs decreased, so that it makes more challenging for the NGOs to continue their operation. Okay. Then, if they have the funding problems, meaning that it will impact to the operations. Okay, this is some of the listed Malaysian NGOs that dissolved in Malaysia because of the funding issues. Okay, and also the operation or the programs cannot continue because of the funding issues. So the purpose of this study is to explore the donor relationship management on the funding of Malaysian social welfare NGOs. Okay, why? Because as I mentioned before, okay, NGOs in Malaysia depend on the donors' funding. The previous literature has done some of the research on funding and donors, all right, funding and NGOs, but it must much focus on the collaboration between NGO and donors, okay, in terms of the importance of the exchange relationship. But there is very little research that explore how Malaysian NGOs ni, social welfare NGOs manage their relationship with donors for funding. All right. This is what I just mentioned before, and DRM, okay, donor relationship management. They have 3 steps. Okay, first, recording donors' information. Second, keep interacting with donors, and the third one is maintaining donor relationships. And most of the previous literature in NGOs and donors mentioned that the elements in maintaining donor relationships have employed in managing the donor relationship. All right, so the elements have 4, which is trust, control, mutuality, commitment, and satisfaction. Okay, all right, next. This research was designed by relationship management theory. Will have adopted relationship management theory. Okay, the managing an organization and public relationship to benefit organization stakeholder. Okay, why choose a relationship management theory? Okay, in previous research on donor relationship have employed the relationship management theory to understand the relationship between donor and NGO. And relationship management theory also said that there are 2 types of relationships, which is communal or exchange. Communal relationship means that each party is concerned about other welfare, and they do not think about any returns from other parties. But exchange relationship means that each party benefit from each other. Okay, so it's difference here. All right, so in order to retrieve the data, this is the methodology. I used the qualitative research design to analyze the data, and I have done the semi-structured interview with 6 participants, okay, based on the NGO's criteria, which is first based on the location. I choose in Selangor. Why? Because Selangor is the one of the good economic condition, and the NGOs is very active in Selangor. And I also have the data, but I didn't put it here. I'm sorry for that. And also I choose the registered Malaysian NGOs because in Malaysia also have the unregistered NGO, but this is based of the registered NGOs, the data from the Registrar of Society. And I focus to the social welfare NGO. Okay, why? Okay, actually in Malaysia there are another 10 categories of NGOs, but the social welfare NGOs is the largest NGOs in Malaysia, and very active NGOs in Malaysia compared to others. And also, as we know, many current issues related to the social welfare NGOs. I mean to say that the functions of social welfare NGOs nowadays is to address the poverty, the poverty issues, to address the flood issues and so on. And that is the function of the social welfare NGOs, and that is why this is the focus for this study. All right. So the methodology, and this is how I analyze the data and interpret the data. Okay, and the findings of this study, I found that we have 5 themes emerged. Okay, which is first the information transparency, donor engagement, okay, common agenda, expressing gratitude, and incorporating donors' feedback. Okay, the findings or the theme is top at the participants number 6 because there is no additional data found at the participant number 6. okay, which is the data was retrieved or derived based on the data saturation. Okay, this is
Martia, you have only 1 minute left.
all right, thanks. Okay, this is the summary of my findings. It shows that all the things, all the participants have the exchange relationship between the NGOs and donors in order to manage the relationship with donors. All right, the discussion. Okay, as we can see here, communication is very important between the NGOs and donors. Okay, and as you can see at the slide here is I just mentioned that each of the teams in terms of the context, what is the meaning of the information transparency in the context, and also the supporting empirical research that mentioned that the communication is very important if the NGO have the transparency information to the donors. Okay. All right, these studies provide the implication in theory, method, and practical. Okay, in theoretical implication is these studies offers additional input on managing relationships with donors, and the communication is the major pillar in relationship management. And in terms of methodology, it focuses on Malaysian social welfare NGO and qualitative approach to explore the donor relationship management, because the study on that focus on social welfare NGO and qualitative research in DRM look scarce. All right, and in terms of practical, it provides insights into the importance of communication in strengthening the relationship between NGOs and donors. Okay, for example, by embedding the essential elements of communication in NGO strategic planning to achieve its missions. All right. The limitation of this study, we have two here, which is in terms of, as we know, that we have another 9 types of NGOs, but just focus on, there are 9 types of NGOs with different mission. Okay, so that the findings of the study should be interpreted with caution. Okay, because they have their own their different missions. And the second limitation is as I mentioned before, the participants, only 6 participants from one NGOs, so that there is a small number of participants, so that the interpretation of the findings is limited. All right, for the future research, okay, there are 2 I expect that for my future research is study on managing donor relationship management with other types of NGOs, which is we have another 9 NGOs in Malaysia. And the second one is comparative analysis, meaning that why not I have to provide another comparative analysis. Okay, study the compare the way of different types of NGOs in Malaysia on how they manage the relationship with the donors. All right, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Same as the previous presenter, it's a very good help to the country, to the nation, when you talk about the NGOs, but because I always say in all the countries, we can't always rely on the government support, and then we should come up with, right, the table, charts, and all these things. So I guess it was a slides number, just give me a second, one of your, yeah, slide number 5, 6 are fully written, which doesn't help your audience to read in a very short time. So that was for your own reminder. So why not you just like put this as a graph, or just make it some highlight readings, I mean
Just
writings,
highlight
some
the main
sentences.
point. That, okay.
Exactly, because I can see that you know how to make PowerPoint, but it's a little bit like, I mean, difficult to read all these like small sentences. So what my first recommendation for you is the graphic of your slide that you can touch up in the future. And then, as you said, you already know that for your future studies, our recommendation is that to come up with narrowing down. Let's say you said that you have 9 different type of NGOs.
Yeah.
So, or you can do some comparison.
Mhm.
And this is very wide. What you have done now is quite wide. Maybe it's just a first step for you. In your future studies, try to narrow down
Okay.
based on the states or based on the activities that they have. Is it like NGO for women's rights or is it for kids' rights? I mean, whatever it is, just try to narrow it down.
Narrow down.
And then I would love to ask for more literatures and citations. So references are a little bit like missing. I know that you've got 2 or 3 pages of references at the end of your presentation, but while you were presenting, I barely hear that you would rely on some citation. So when you're presenting, it's better that you use it in your oral presentation, saying that based on citation of, let's say, Brule or Banks, that you have it in your references.
Yeah.
So, and then some of your references are outdated. So try to use the newest version.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Otherwise, I hope that you can help your country by doing more research regarding these NGOs.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Any question from the audience? All right, so I just wish good luck to everyone, and thanks, Prof. Yusuf, to invite me for today's presentation. I really enjoy and I learned from all of your presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, and then I miss being there. Inshallah, in close future, I will be there. So,
okay,
thanks
thank you,
again.
Dr.
And if there is no questions, you're welcome. Have a good luck with your future studies, everyone. And send my regards to Prof. Yusuf, please.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, sure. So, thank you, Doctor. I think that's all for our breakout session.
Breakout chair. All right.
Unless
The
is there,
review will be sent soon.
yes, are there any questions?
What I was just, no, there is no question. I just wanted to appreciate everyone's hard work because the title of the conference is, I mean, we are trying to provide a better life for each other. So, and then all your topics were very valuable to me. And I hope that we all can help by our researchers, the community, and our countries.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. Good luck. Bye-bye. You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Assalamualaikum.